Oh, well, I'm going down the wrong road here. But the business degree that he's got, he bought that. He's never set foot inside of a school. That's what he said. So anyway, back to his sexual habits. Evidently, his mother, the whole story of him having a father is not true. His mother made up that story, and he says he's told it enough times that he feels like it's true. And the picking up nails part of it, she said that was because people like to hear that you're thrifty. Well, not when you're a millionaire. They don't. I mean, that alone should have tipped people off that it's just a story. But anyway, so the man of the house was always Donald, and he had sex with his mother. And what I am finding out now is that if you have sex when you are very young and you're a boy, instead of ejaculating with no sperm, you start to have sperm. Now, my father and his mother had a baby when my father was about 9 or 10, which is young to get sperm. It's normally around 12. Same thing with Donald. His mother started getting pregnant, and every time she would have a baby girl, the baby would die. So his mother wanted to have another baby, but it kept being a girl, and she would kill them. Now, she wouldn't tell Donald that. I think even if he hears it now, he'll be upset about that. So I think what she did was she basically took a good, decent person and twisted him until he was evil. So yeah, she said later, when he was telling me about killing his first 12, and evidently I was somewhere in that 12, but since I hid from him and he couldn't find where I lived, I wasn't killed. So there's weird stuff. He said that his mother liked me, and his mother would. Oh, his mother here. His mother told him that no woman can amount to anything. They're not. They can't. They don't have the skills or the brains. Which back in the day, the people thought that. They really thought that, and they were taught that. And I know women who are older who say they can't do something, and you ask them why, and their answer is because they're a woman. Now, there is really no proof to that. It's just that they're taught that they can't do that, so they don't. Can't and don't are two different things. We are also taught we shouldn't want that. We shouldn't want to do that. It's something wrong with us if we want that. Whatever. I wanted to be a doctor. There's something wrong with me for wanting to be a doctor. And women can't be doctors. And I'm like, if there is no law that says that, I'm going to try to do it. And my father's response was, I won't pay for college if that's what you want. So women really have come a long way, and attitude toward women, but the attitude that Trump has is one that was instilled in him through torture by his mother, that women can't do anything. So when Trump told his mother about me, and meeting me at the theater, and that I was just in my street clothes, she said, first of all, that I could not have written that play. Women can't do that. I must be lying. I could not. I mean, and he didn't even hear that from me. He heard it from the scuttlebutt that was going around town, you know. And New York is much more of a small town than L.A. I'll tell you that. So it wasn't even his. I wasn't like. So his mother said I must have been bragging about writing the songs. Women can't write songs. Now I had already co-written The King and I, and West Side Story, and a whole bunch of songs like King of the Road. I mean, from when I was little, I started to write songs. So she said no, that I was lying, that's a lie. No, I wasn't even lying. He heard this, and he went to the theater, and he saw me directing, and yet when his mother said she's a liar, she's she's an usher and she doesn't know how to dress for the theater, even though I was directing and there was nobody in the seats. I mean, it was a rehearsal. So his mother made these grand assumptions, and he wasn't allowed to question her because she was omniscient. And whenever his mother would kill one of their baby girls, she would say it's better off because she can't amount to anything anyway, and in the meantime I would have to pay for her food and her clothes and everything else, and don't you want to keep all that money for you? I'd rather spend it on you because you're a boy and you can amount to something. Even though his mother told him over and over that he was an idiot and that he was retarded, and he said he had his IQ tested a whole bunch of times, and sometimes it would be just above retarded and sometimes below, depending on the test, I guess. So his attitude toward women, that they can't, I mean, pretty much everything I said was a lie. I must have been an usher. So he said over the next couple of years, every once in a while, when he was, not dating anybody, she allowed him to stop killing his dates because he stopped getting very upset in front of her over killing somebody he just dated. Plus that, it was costing them, he told me, it was costing them a lot of money, and they were forever opening that trunk and giving that money away, and to cover up. So he said he gives about $10 million a year to people on the New York City police force. In fact, he has it set up so that the police are designated to be the ones who need to investigate him whenever his name comes up for investigation. So about $10 million a year in hush money to the New York City Police Department. And so that's about the end of why he's so misogynistic. He was taught that, and he's not that bright, and I don't think that was his fault either. I think it was her fault as well. And he did have a heart at one time that she just trampled it. She trampled it, and he said he still lives to please his mother, even though she's been dead, because she told him that that she would be watching him from the grave. At first he said from heaven, and then he shook his head and said, I don't think she's in heaven. But I really, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then one of his baby girl, he must have been home and in attendance when the baby was born, because he said he was really surprised to see where they come from. And so the baby was alive, and he was real happy. He said he was really happy because he wanted a friend, and this would be his little sister. And he still wasn't sure how his mother was getting pregnant, because there was never a man around the house. So he still didn't understand how his mother, was getting pregnant. It was him. But he still didn't know. I believe him that he didn't know. So his mother said, fine, if you want to keep her, you keep her. But you have to keep her fed and in clothes. And so he said, fine, give me $10. I'll go down to the store and buy bottles and formula and little clothes for her. And his mother said, no, I won't give you any money. You want to keep her, then you get a job and you get the money and you feed her and clothe her. Which, at 10 years old, or whatever he was at the time, he couldn't do. He wasn't even old enough legally to work, he said. So the baby just cried and cried and cried, and he tried to comfort her and did everything he could think of, but it just kept crying. Well, it was probably very hungry and wet and whatnot. And then he would put her to sleep at night and watch her sleep, because that was when she wasn't crying. She was so cute, and he couldn't wait for her to grow up. And he said one day she cried all day, and my mother said she would put her to sleep. And the next day, he got up and the baby was dead. And you could see him choke up. And he said, "Oh, I can't. My mother would be so upset with me if she ever saw me looking like this." His lip was quivering, and he was a little misty. And right away he straightened up, because he didn't want his mother to see him like that. And that his mother told him that the baby hated him, and that's why she died. She didn't want to have him for an older brother. Now, what a thing. The woman was a monster, as far as I'm concerned. Well, she was a monster. Look at what she did to the Jews. And she claimed, and Donald said she claimed that was all her idea, that mass extermination of the Jews. Oh, and the reason why he was, his mother wanted him to kill his dates was because every once in a while Hitler would break down and cry about what he was doing to the Jews. And his mother didn't like that. She didn't like to see a man cry. And she thought he should have no emotion. So she decided that she would want a president who had no emotion. And that's why he had to kill the first 12 girls he dated. So there were reasons, but they were crazy reasons. And he really was so badly abused, and his IQ was so low that he couldn't, even though he could see there was a discrepancy between what his mother was telling him and what seemed to be happening in the real world, that was wrong. Somehow he still believed that she was a god. And I have found this with men who were abused sexually, that the mother says that they're a god, that the reason why they want to have sex with their son is because they're a god and the son is a god. Their son, and therefore their son is a god, and they only want to have sex with a god. I kid you not. And now that I'm older and single, and I've met a lot of single men in the last 10 years on the road, and the ones who are very poor and frightened and don't really want to date, they are have been abused by their mothers, and they think they're a god. You know, and I could name names, but I'm not going to. But it telling someone that he's a god, or that and that he's a sex god, fucks them up for life. For life. And they make the saddest, meanest old men I have ever met. And when you're a kid, you meet a mean old guy here and a mean old guy there, and you kind of stay away from them. But now that I'm older, the single men are mean and old. And they also were sexually abused and told that they were a god. And it makes they have they can't hold down jobs. They have a lot of emotional problems because it's hardwired in us to be sexual beings, and it's hardwired in us to be heterosexual. So if they have sexual feelings toward a woman, then they're very conflicted, because they're supposed to be a god and women are supposed to be terrible and women. That's the other thing that Trump said. Women will sound horrible. You can't stand the sound of a woman's voice talking. This is why in the end I said, well, you're going to have to hire a transvestite, because you got to have a woman. You have to show that you can get along with women, and why don't you hire a transvestite? Now, I didn't realize there was a transvestite who was also good at fixing elections, and I didn't believe him. I didn't believe a word that he said. He was so far gone. Well, everything he said. I mean, like I said, he kept telling me he would kill me, like every 5 minutes, and that he doesn't listen to women. And and then I would say, well, I don't know why you're here. Are you listening to me? Things like that. And he was taping it, and and so that's why a few years later he called me to his office to kill me, because he realized he had told me too much. I even said to him, I don't think you should be telling me this. And in fact, in his office later, he told me, well, it's really my fault what's going to happen now. It's really my fault. I should not have told you those things. You were right. And it's nothing personal. So he's like apologizing to me for killing me. He was about to kill me. So yeah, he's a narcissist. But I think, since he didn't go to school, and he only had a crazy woman to as his only companion, that he really she told him these bizarre things about women and people in general. he can't put two and two together that those were lies, and that people don't do the things that his mother. And the reason why he kept bragging to me was because of my reputation in the business world. I had a very CEO of the Rand Corporation, and you get a very good business reputation. And his mother told him that you can't be a good business person without killing people. So he thought that I probably killed hundreds, if not thousands, of people. And he was up to about 1,000. He had killed about 1,000 people. And he wanted to know how many people I killed. I told him none. I didn't know there were people in the Rand Corporation who were killing people. I didn't know any part of that, but I told him none. He said, it doesn't matter. Whatever you said, I was going to just say more. If you said 1,200, I would have said 1,500. So it doesn't matter. So there you have it. It's about as much sexual information as I want to give you. As far as Kellyanne Conway, I remember a View. She was on The View, and she said she had to reschedule because there were some loose ends in some swing states that she wanted to make sure she had that tied up so that they would win those states. Now, nobody said, exactly how are you doing that, Kellyanne? Did you schedule him to have more rallies there or what? Nobody questioned how she was tying up loose ends to make sure that he would win in those states. She was fixing it. Also, I think Joy playfully went to grab for her crotch, saying, what do you think about him grabbing women's crotches? And she put her hand out like she was going to. I don't think, I don't really know Joy. I've met her, but I don't think she was going to grab her crotch. But Kellyanne said, it doesn't matter, I'm wearing a cup. Now, how many women do you know who wear a cup? And why would she wear a cup? I think she probably wear a cup because if someone inadvertently hit her there, something happened and she was hit there, she didn't want to react like a man and double over or anything like that. That's why I think she wears a cup. But it's getting really rocky. So that's about as much sexual information as you need, don't you think? I think we might come through this all right. I see a little more sky. I kept seeing if Trump got in, everything was black. Well, everything was black until the day after the inauguration. And then he sees now that his mother lied to him about being a god. And, what he should do is take that and information and make adjustments, start to listen to people, maybe try to make this country greater. I mean, there are things he could do that would be good. But there we have it. All right, peace. Gonna need it.